You've been told your kid is just naughty. Daycare said it, your mother-in-law hinted at it. There's a quiet part of you that wonders if maybe you broke him somehow. 3 timeouts a day and nothing sticks. He runs off in the parking lot like he can't even hear you. A lot of what looks like bad behavior in a 2, 3, 4 year old isn't behavior at all. It is a brain that is wired a little differently from the kids around him. And once you can see that, you can stop hating yourself. One thing before we get into the signs, ADHD usually isn't formally diagnosed until age 4 or older. Every 2 year old loses things, and every 3 year old melts down. So one sign on its own doesn't mean very much. Doctors look for a pattern of these showing up in more than one setting. At home and at preschool, with grandma and with you, for months on end. If the last 6 months of your life sound like several of these signs at once, take notes, then bring the notes to your pediatrician. Number 1, the total tune out. You call her name, you call it again. By the third time, she is still staring at the wall in the living room, and she might as well be on Mars. Her hearing is fine and her eyes are open, but nobody is home behind them. Parents almost always read this as her ignoring them. The voice gets louder. The patience runs out. What you are watching more often is a toddler brain that physically cannot anchor itself to incoming sound. ADHD brains under-respond to the cue to pay attention, and the signal just doesn't reach her the way it reaches the kid next door. Every toddler zones out sometimes. The tell is how often, and the fact that you get the same blank look during her favorite show, during snack at the kitchen table, even in the middle of a hug from you. Number 2. The half-dressed wander off. You said go put your pants on, she left the bedroom. 20 minutes later, you find her in the living room with one leg in the pant, holding a stuffed elephant, narrating an entire story to herself. The pants forgot they were a job. Toddlers need reminders to finish things, of course. The ADHD version has a different flavor to it. The instruction evaporates within seconds of leaving your face. She is wandering. There is no argument coming from her about putting pants on. The instruction just stops existing the moment she sees something more interesting on her path, whether that's a sock, a piece of lint in the rug, or her own bare foot in good lighting. If most days it takes 4 reminders to complete a 2-step task, and your life has looked this way for 6 straight months, what's missing in the brain is the piece that holds on to the next step. Number 3, loses literally everything. The toy disappears, and then the water bottle, and then both shoes, and then the lovey she had 90 seconds ago is now somewhere in the entire house. This sounds like every parent's life, I know. The ADHD version sits heavier on the family. She will set something down and forget not just where she set it, but that she was even holding it. Her cup turns up in the bathroom, her lunch ends up in the laundry basket on Tuesday, the library book lives in the toy bin for a full week before anyone notices. Daycare teachers report the same pattern. Her hat goes missing every afternoon, and her lunchbox ends up in someone else's cubby almost daily. If your kid's losing rate has become a running joke at pickup and it isn't getting better as she ages up, the brain isn't being careless. It isn't encoding where things are in the first place. Number 4, the body that won't stop at meals. Dinner is 20 minutes. To her, 20 minutes might as well be a triathlon. She climbs up out of the chair, slides down to the kitchen floor, ends up under the table, then stands on the chair eating green beans with her feet in the air. Toddlers wiggle. ADHD wiggle is something different in kind. Her body has its own little engine, and she cannot find the off switch on it from inside. Watch her at quiet activities too. Story time at the library where 10 other kids are sitting nicely on the rug. She is the one rolling sideways, crawling under the bench, doing what looks like a small interpretive dance in the corner of the room. Being still is genuinely uncomfortable for her, the way it would be for you to hold a plank for 2 whole minutes. Number 5. Climbs everything you told him not to. He climbed the bookshelf in the living room. You took him down and told him no. 5 seconds later, he was back on the bookshelf. This sign is one of the most frustrating ones because it looks like defiance, and defiance pulls the worst version of us out as parents. What's actually going on is closer to this. The part of his brain that holds the rule and slows him down is running slower than the part that sees the bookshelf and wants up. The rule is in there. He remembers the rule. He just could not slow himself down long enough for the rule to matter in time. Other kids feel the impulse to climb too. They have the second of pause that he is missing. But if you spend half your day saying don't and don't isn't landing, this isn't a discipline problem you have to crack. Number 6, the huge excitement for tiny things. You said the park, the regular park, the one 3 blocks away. In 5 minutes, his whole face changes. He starts running circles around the coffee table, screaming, bouncing onto the couch, tackling the dog along the way. To him, you just announced a trip to Disney World. Parents usually read this as drama or too much sugar at lunch or his personality being too big for the room. The actual mechanism mirrors the meltdown one we'll get to next. The on switch is also too strong in him. The dopamine response to a regular good thing arrives louder in his brain than it would in another kid's. To him, going to your local park feels every single time like the last day of school used to feel when you were 7. He can't help being a lot. He is wired to be a lot, and the same wiring that makes the meltdowns enormous makes the joy enormous too. Number 7, tantrums that go past 15 minutes. Every toddler tantrums, we all know this, but there is tantrum and then there is tantrum. The ADHD version often runs past 15 minutes, sometimes past 30, and sometimes she has been crying so long that she cannot remember what started the crying in the first place. You've held her, you've walked away. You have offered a snack and named the feeling like the parenting book said to. None of it brings her back. She just keeps going until her body finally crashes on the bedroom floor. This has nothing to do with drama or manipulation. It has to do with regulation. The brain has a system that helps a kid come back down from a big feeling, and in an ADHD brain, that system runs slower and weaker. So once she is lit up, she rides the wave all the way to the bottom of it. Number 8, meltdowns over the smallest thing. It is the wrong cup. The blue one, when you handed him the green one, the entire world has ended. Or you said the park, then you said never mind it's raining, and the crying coming out of him is biblical. To you, this is nothing. To him, the disappointment lands like a betrayal. ADHD brains carry a lower frustration threshold than their peers carry. The same small disappointment that gives another kid a 5-second pout will pour through him like a thunderstorm. He doesn't have a thicker skin to grow into yet, and his nervous system is reading minor stuff as if it were major stuff. Pair that with the slow regulation system from the last sign, and you get a kid who falls apart easily and stays fallen apart for a long time. If a half day with him feels like crisis management, this is part of why. If this video is hitting close to home, hit subscribe. I'm a mom of 2 and I make these every week, breaking down what is actually going on under toddler behavior. The next one I'm working on is about what to actually do when consequences aren't working because gentle parenting on its own doesn't always cut it with these kids. Okay, on to the heavier ones. Number 9, he doesn't seem to learn from consequences. This sign is the one that breaks parents. You did every single thing the parenting book said to do. The calm voice, the limit, the consequence, the apology at the end. 10 minutes later, the same exact behavior comes back. He hits his sister again, climbs the same shelf again, touches the same forbidden cabinet again. It feels personal. It feels like nothing you do is getting through to him. The piece most parents never get told is this. The part of the brain that connects what just happened to a future choice is genuinely underdeveloped at this age in ADHD kids. He cares. He just cannot access the memory of the consequence fast enough to override the impulse when the impulse shows up. The traditional parenting playbook assumes that pattern recognition is online for him. In these kids, it is blinking on and off. Number 10, the kid who is genuinely not afraid of danger. She runs into the street the second your hand lets go of hers. She jumps off the top of the slide at the playground. She walks up to a strange dog with her hand out. You have explained, she nodded, and 5 minutes later she does it again. A typical toddler has some natural caution baked in. They glance at you before doing something risky and they feel the rule and your eye on them. ADHD brains often have less of this signal in the wiring. The internal alarm that says, stop, this might hurt, doesn't ring as loud for them. If your kid has had a real injury that should have taught her and somehow it didn't, you are not raising a daredevil on purpose. You are looking at wiring you didn't put there. And this one I'd take to the pediatrician quickly because the danger is literal. Number 11. Daycare keeps calling about hitting. The call from daycare, the note in the cubby at pickup. There was another incident today. They need to talk to you. He bit a kid this morning. Earlier in the week, he pushed someone off the climber, and now they want to move him to a different room. You apologize so many times in that meeting that you start sounding fake to yourself. You drive home wondering what you are doing wrong, what he is watching, whether you are somehow raising a violent kid. What rarely gets said out loud in these meetings is that kids with this wiring often hit because their feelings come faster than their words can. The impulse to push outruns the impulse to stop. The gap between the urge and the response is just too short for the rule to land in time. You are not raising a violent kid. He is missing a half second of pause. Number 12, she cannot wait her turn. Maybe you're playing a board game on the rug, or waiting in line at the grocery store, or another kid is talking at the playground and your kid is barging right in over them. You have practiced turn taking. You have coached her through it patiently. She still cannot do it, not at 3 and barely at 4, and you're starting to worry about kindergarten next year. Wait time inside an ADHD brain feels different than it does for the kid next to her. It runs longer. It feels physically heavier. It actually hurts more than it does for the kid sitting beside her in line. So she does what humans do with physical discomfort. She gets it over with by grabbing, or blurting the answer, or cutting the line. She knows the rule. Her body is just being asked to fight its own wiring to follow it. Number 13, he interrupts every single conversation. You're on the phone with your sister. You're saying one sentence to the cashier at Target. He is right next to you, tugging on your shirt, saying, "Mom, mom, mom," in the middle of every sentence you try to finish. Loud and cheerful, never angry. He just cannot hold the thought in his head until you finish speaking. This sign is the talking version of the can't wait her turn sign. Other kids around 3 or 4 start developing a small internal pause button that holds the urge to speak for a beat. ADHD kids develop that pause button later, and sometimes much later. He isn't being rude on purpose. His brain is dropping every thought he has the second he has it, because the holding it in part of his brain is not online yet. The rest of us in your house have probably stopped trying to finish sentences. Number 14, warms up to strangers way too fast. A typical small kid comes with a built-in radar for new adults. They hide behind your leg at the coffee shop. They watch for a beat. They check your face before they smile back at the new person. Your kid does none of that. She is in a stranger's lap inside a minute, telling the cashier her whole life story before you can step in, holding a new person's hand on the way out of the store. To outsiders, it looks like she is just friendly, and they will compliment you on raising such a social kid. Inside the brain, though, the same behavior can mean something else. A brain that doesn't pump the brakes on running into the street often doesn't pump them on social caution either. The healthy hesitation that protects toddlers from strangers is part of the same impulse control system, and if yours seems to be missing, write that one down. Number 15, the spacey stare during quiet activities. This last one is the easiest one to miss because it is the quietest. Bedtime, picture book. She is sitting still, she is looking right at the pages, she looks engaged with the story. 5 pages in, you ask her what just happened in the book, and she has no idea what you're talking about. Her body was there with you. Her brain was somewhere else entirely, off inside her own head. This pattern is called the inattentive type of ADHD, and it shows up as the dreamy kid more than the loud one. The teacher's note at conferences might say she is sweet, but she seems to drift in class. Most parents miss this one for years because she isn't the kid knocking things over, and she isn't the kid biting. She is the easy one, the one that got described early on as living in her own little world. Okay, I want to say one thing before you close this video. None of this is a diagnosis from me. I am not your kid's doctor, and neither is the internet. A pattern of signs is a starting point, nothing more. The point of this whole video isn't to tell you what is wrong with your kid. The point is to tell you what isn't wrong with you. If you've been carrying around the feeling that your toddler's behavior is somehow your fault, that you broke him, that he is a bad kid you raised badly, please put that down for the night. A lot of what we punish in toddlers turns out to be wiring, not character. When you treat wiring like character, the kid feels the difference, and they slowly start to believe they are the bad one. That part you can start to fix today before any appointment. Watch him for a week. Write down the patterns you keep seeing. Bring that list to your pediatrician. And if you are tired and you needed someone to say none of this is your fault, here it is. None of this is your fault. I'll see you in the next one.